All right, I'm the flat rate master. Today we're going to talk about the shop owner's mentality when it comes to various pay systems. What the shop owner's thoughts are when it comes to how he's going to pay technician. I'll say it again for this video. Doesn't matter how you get paid. What matters is what your paycheck says at the end of the week. That's what matters. Whatever pay system you go on, whatever pay system you like, all that matters is what you get paid. First off, we're going to talk hourly/salary. Now, I say this every time. In most states, salary for a technician that provides their own tools is not a valid pay system. It is literally against the law. You have to pay hourly, including overtime. Just getting that out of the way. So we're going to primarily focus on hourly. Let's go from the mentality of a tech turned shop owner. A lot of times they, worked in the flat rate system and they've seen the positives and the negatives. So they go, oh, I'm going to be better than everybody else and pay hourly. And there's pluses and minuses to that pay system across the board, and we'll get into that. Their mentality is I'm going to pay well, pay them hourly so they don't have to worry about money, and they can care about the customers doing the right job, which is a good thing. There's caveats to that, and we'll get into that in a little bit. There's also the benefit of fixed costs. Your employees now become a fixed cost. A lot of businesses operate like that, where their employees get paid this much. That's what you have to produce to pay your payroll. As long as you don't have your employees working overtime, your costs are fixed. They get paid the same check every week, no matter what, making it really easy to budget, etc., etc. Benefit for the technician is they know exactly what they're going to make every week, and depending on the employee, they can take that and go with it and make sure they do a quality repair. The technicians benefit from that in the fact that they have a known income every week. They don't have to worry about budgeting themselves for a slow week. They've got the advantage of having a steady paycheck. It's an advantage, right? Let's look at it from the negative side of a shop owner. Your costs are now fixed, so you have a large payroll expense that happens no matter how much you produce, and you have to cover that every week, week in, week out, no matter what, on your sales. Now, for a larger shop that stays busy, that's not a big deal. Smaller shops, it can be a huge deal. We're talking from the shop owner's perspective, not the technician. Degradation of performance. This is one that I point out a lot, and the hourly guys in the comments are always screaming. Does it happen to every tech? No. It's like you can see the kid at the local grocery store busting his hump on hourly, even though he doesn't have to. Work ethic is very dependent on the person. So you'll have some techs that will knock it out of the park no matter how they're paid. You'll have other techs that will eventually degrade until they've hit an equilibrium. That tech will produce 40 hours no matter what. That tech will produce 35 hours no matter what. Whereas another technician that just wants to do a good job is still producing 50, 60 hours, etc., because he wants to give his all. The thing is that's still part of paying hourly. Because you're paying hourly, you have to keep a very close watch on that kind of performance degradation, meaning you actually have to manage your crews, meaning you have to manage that shop. That's a huge disadvantage for a lot of shop owners. Most shop owners really don't have the skills needed to manage that kind of situation. A lot of them do, but a lot of them also don't. A lot of shop owners are horrible business people, but that's a different video. You have to monitor that situation constantly. You have to keep abreast of that kind of performance degradation, and you have to make decisions based on, keeping them or not. You might get into a situation where you hire somebody that's even worse. So it's a double-edged sword on hourly. A lot of times it comes out of, wanting to make sure their technicians are taken care of. Let's look at it from a technician. Chances are if you're hourly, you're not getting paid as much as a technician on flat rate. You're a fixed cost now. Not saying every shop, but most of the shops I've seen that pay hourly pay less than shops that pay flat rate. My experience, your mileage will vary. Because it's a fixed cost and They're providing you a set income. Pay is usually less for the technician. Let's talk hourly with commission. Now, hourly with commission is basically flat rate with a guarantee. You can look at it any way you want to. That's what it is. Usually the hourly part of it is small, and then you make most of your money based on your performance bonus. That'll vary across any shop. I mean, it varies across just parts of the city in Atlanta. But generally, your hourly fee will be small, and most of your income will be based on sales. Again, flat rate with a guarantee. Small guarantee, make your money on commission. So let's look at it from the shop owner's perspective, not the tech. You're providing your technicians with a guarantee, allowing them to make sure they can, stay afloat, have gas to come to work, etc. if they have a bad week. Your fixed operating costs are now much lower than a technician on hourly, but you have a performance-based bonus system to encourage them to work efficiently, fix the cars right the first time, because again, comebacks you don't make money on. I mean, you get the hourly, but you don't get commission on it because it's a comeback. The performance degradation of an hourly tech is now mostly removed. Now, there's performance degradation in any kind of pay system. It's one of the big things. You decrease the performance degradation that you might see on a tech that has a fixed income. They have incentive to produce, whether it's just grabbing that next ticket, producing efficient repairs, etc., etc. So you have incentive for them to do their job. So on the negative side for the shop owner, you still have a fixed cost that you have to pay, but it's much lower. But it's still a fixed cost. That's a negative, but it's lower than hourly. With the same issue with flat rate, you can also have some of the unscrupulous tactics used in flat rate techs. We all know they exist out there. The upselling stupid stuff, the upselling, the adding stuff on to a ticket to pad your ticket. To give an example, one shop I worked at, I was hourly with a bonus on parts, and they were always, some of the techs were always really heavy on parts because that's how they got paid. But I digress. So you still have some of the issues of flat rate. Now, I know a lot of people will go, well, that's why we need to pay hourly. But again, I talked about some of the negatives of hourly pay system, and a lot of it comes down to performance degradation. From the technician side of it, the positives are they know they have money to pay their bills, at least the bare minimum bills. That check's always going to be there at least for that amount, depending on the pay system or whatever, but they at least have that amount to cover their bill. Because they have that base income, they feel less pressure to upsell stupid stuff, which is good. They can care a little more about the quality of their repair. Let's talk about the negatives. Your pay may not be as much as you could make on flat rate. Being honest, maybe. It's really hard to tell what an actual technician that would be on a hybrid system like this would actually make, especially because so many of the pay plans are very convoluted, and it's really hard to predict what somebody will make in those systems because, this, that, whatever, it's hard. So maybe, I'm giving the maybe. More negatives, you're still on commission. You're still reliant on customers buying repairs for your income. You're still on flat rate with a guarantee. Sorry, that's what it is. So I saved the best for last. I am called the flat rate master for a reason. Flat rate, from the owner's perspective, you have no fixed labor cost. Your payroll is directly tied to sale. You don't have a fixed cost with your technicians. They make based on what they provide. They pay their own paychecks based on what they produce. So you don't have any fixed cost. Everything is based on what they produce. Continuing with the management side, if a technician consistently underperforms, he's going to remove himself from that situation, meaning he's going to quit. He can't pay his bills on flat rate at that shop for whatever reason, whether it's favoritism or anything like that, or just simply they're not a good, efficient technician on flat rate. I'll say it again, some people cannot operate on flat rate. They just don't have the mentality. They're constantly worried about their hours. They're constantly checking their hours. So they really have trouble producing in a flat rate environment, and that's fine. They need to find a either hybrid system or hourly shop. I've seen a lot of technicians that are really poor at flat rate really shine at hourly. It's a lot easier to manage a flat rate shop from an owner's perspective because the poor performers generally will weed themselves out. You have no real costs in hiring a new technician other than, advertising or whatever. And if they don't work out, they'll weed themselves out, etc. Other performance problems that have to be dealt with, that's a different subject. Disadvantage. Chances are your flat rate techs are going to be paid more in more different ways than just an hourly or salary tech. Require you to, pay them more per hour because they're flat rate. They're going to try to push as many hours through as they can, which is good for the business, but they're going to expect to be compensated very well for that. Most flat rate techs aren't going to accept poor wages if they know they're good. Biggest advantage is for a shop owner is a technician that is comfortable with flat rate and can produce, if your shop allows it, come in and just go as hard as they can to produce as many hours as they can, meaning more sales, more gross income. Let's talk quality control issues on flat rate. Now this is going to be something I know a bunch of people are going to talk about. You're going to have technicians that do questionable things. I'll say this again, every pay system I've talked about, you will find people like that. Just because they're paid hourly or salary or whatever doesn't mean they won't do questionable things. They're just less likely to oversell when they're hourly because that means more work. Obviously, it's going to be the highest percentage in flat rate techs. They're going to have issues with going too fast, screwing stuff up, going to be an issue. When they have to warranty something or replace something they broke, it's on them, not on the shop, other than covering the cost of what got broke. Overselling is going to be a problem with anybody with a commission-based pay system. Doesn't matter what it is. Hourly with commission, you can have overselling. You can. Sorry. When it comes to flat rate, obviously you're going to have the same problem. I also did a video on service writers enabling that kind of activity, so go watch that. From the technician's perspective, positives, you can make the most money, I think, of any pay system. You're much more flexible in what you can do, i.e. your bays are clean and there's no work. You can play on your phone, you can go home, etc. Shop owner can't tell you to go clean the toilet. Just saying. Let's talk disadvantages. You have no safety net. If you don't make hours, you don't make money. Huge problem. One of the reasons why I talk about having savings and all that kind of stuff on this channel, because a bad week and you're living paycheck to paycheck, you're kind of screwed. The pressure. Now this is something that goes back to the first one, but you're under a lot of pressure. You have to continue to produce. And it can put a lot of technicians in a very bad place. Ethics can get thrown out of the window if they're needing money. It can. I've always had myself well insulated from that, and even if I'm having a horrible week, doesn't change how I write up cars. I write up the same stuff I would if I was, had 70 hours in the bank. It's still, I write it up based on what the car needs. But a lot of people aren't like that, so that is a negative. Huge negative for flat rate is, the guys up front taking advantage of flat rate techs. It happens. We all know it does. I don't have a ticket on this one. Can you just check it out real quick? And then all of a sudden you did it. Nothing happens with it. The customer left. You made nothing and you spent 20 minutes diagnosing that check engine light or whatever, checking the brakes, and you made nothing. Package services, where they sell front brakes on an F350 and you get paid 1.2 or whatever your shop pays for front brakes. And it took you 3 because you have to take the whole hubs apart to replace the rotors. That's some of those issues. There's negatives across every pay system. There's positives across every pay system for both the shop owner and the technician. For both the shop owner and the technician, you need to find the pay system that works for you. That's both sides. The technician needs to find a pay system that works for them, works for their income, what they're accepting, how their mental state is. Let's be honest. I talked about it earlier. Some technicians just can't handle flat rate, but you put them in a hourly with commission situation and all of a sudden they do great. or you switch them to, hourly and they do great. As a shop owner, you have to find the pay system that works best for your situation, just like the technician. So I hope this video was helpful. As always, thanks for watching. I am the Flat Rate Master.